Good morning everyone and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my morning routine. This is what a normal morning looks like for me as a special needs mum, so I hope you enjoy it and let's get into it. So I usually wake up anywhere between 6 and 7 a.m. and the first thing I always do is check Avery and make sure she's doing okay on the monitor. I tend to spend a few minutes, maybe 10-15 minutes, just scrolling through my phone, replying to comments, checking Instagram, things like that before I actually haul my backside out of bed. I always make my bed as soon as I get up in the morning. It just is one little step to help me feel a little bit more productive. It's one job that's already done before I even go downstairs. I can't stand the look of an unmade bed, so this is just something that really helps me start the day on the right side of the bed, no pun intended. Once I've made the bed, I pop on my dressing gown and my slippers because it is starting to get a little bit chilly in the mornings now, and I head downstairs to start sorting out Avery's medicines. She is still sleeping at the moment, so that gives me enough time just to get everything sorted before I go and get her up. First thing in the morning is when Avery will have the most medicines all at once. She has baclofen for her tone, an antihistamine for hay fever, Keppra for epilepsy, gabapentin for her dystonia, azithromycin as a prophylactic, and pyramate also for epilepsy. We also give her a probiotic for her gut health. We use Bio360, which we buy on Amazon. It was recommended by her dietitian. We mix this with about 60 ml of water and give it to her before all of her medicines. She also has another 60 ml flush after her medicines and then one more after her feed. By this point, the boys were already downstairs watching TV. They like to grab hold of it before Avery gets up so they can have a bit of time before she steals it. Avery should be waking up any time now. While I wait for Avery to wake up, I sort the boys' breakfast out. They generally have cereal for breakfast on school mornings. I do try and get their breakfast done before I give Avery her meds or her feed because Eli especially takes an eternity to eat his breakfast and they would never get ready for school in time if I left it until later. Once Avery's awake, I go and get her up. She sleeps with the SATS monitor at night, so I turn that off, and she also sleeps with the sound box, so I turn that off as well. Then I usually clean her stoma site where her G-tube is and give her a nice fresh button cover and change her bum. Take her knee braces off, which do tend to slip down once she wakes up and she starts moving. She will be getting her gaiters soon though, so hopefully that will do a better job at keeping her legs straight in the night. And then take her downstairs. Once I bring her down, it's time for her meds. Like I said, she has her Bio360 mixed with water first, then all of her medicines, and then I flush that down with a nice big 60 ml syringe full of water. I like to give Avery about half an hour between her meds and her feed, so I don't overload her stomach, but also just so that those meds have got 30 minutes to absorb. So if she does throw up with her feed, at least I know she has absorbed the majority of her medicines. In the meantime, I place her down in her pea pod, which is basically like her form of relaxed seating, and she watches a bit of TV. Sometimes she'll tolerate what the boys have put on, and sometimes I have to turn it over to something I know she likes. She is currently loving Mr. Bean. While I'm waiting for her meds to settle, I get myself sorted. So I use the bathroom, wash my face, brush my teeth, the usual, and then I will pick out something to wear. This day in particular, I went super comfy with leggings and what I call my lumberjack shirt. I think I got this from Primark in the men's section years ago. Then I will pop on a little bit of makeup. On a normal day that usually just consists of eyebrow pencil. I tend to not have much more time to do any more than that. And then I will do something with my hair. This day I was actually going out for dinner that evening with Josh for his birthday, so I just bunged it up for now because I knew I would be styling it later on. My fringe was definitely not behaving this day, however, though, so I did pop some clips in just to try and flatten it down a bit. Then I forgot I had them in, so I did go to the school run with these clips in my hair and wore them pretty much the rest of the day after that. So even though the fact that I had a camera on me all day, I just completely forgot they were there. So I dread to think how daft I must have looked that day. Once 30 minutes has passed since Avery had her meds, it is time for her feed. She has Complete Pediatric by Nestle, and she has had this now for as long as I can remember. I'm pretty sure she went on to this when she was around 1. She has 160ml, and that usually runs over half an hour, which she seems to tolerate well. So I'm just getting the pump set up and priming it, and then the pump will do the feeding for me. In the morning especially, I like to be as productive as possible with my time. I just feel as though that just sets me up the best way for the day. If I can get as much as I can done in the morning while Avery's meds are settling and she's having her feed, I have time to do these things, and that way that they're not bothering me for the rest of the day. And yeah, I feel like it sets me up right, so I do as much as I possibly can in the morning. So with that little bit of time I have while the feed is priming, which takes about 30 seconds to a minute, I am just sorting out the washing, ready to go on the line. To feed Avery is just a matter of attaching the feed line to her extension on her G-tube and start the machine, really. So it's a really simple process, and I would say it's easier than, you know, oral eating. However, of course, as you can imagine, I would much rather take the extra time to feed her orally. However, this is just how Avery prefers to be fed at the moment. She is nil by mouth, she only eats by G-tube. This is because she has a poor swallow and weak coordination, so she essentially chokes if we try to give her anything orally, which can give her pneumonia, so it's not very good for her, but she is still getting the nutrients that she needs through her G-tube, so fed is best, I can't really complain. Time to continue with productivity. It is time to put the washing out on the line. I try and do this as early as possible in the day, just so that I can try and get it in as early as possible in the day, because evenings are a rush as it is, but that is a whole other video. I feel like my days are a never-ending cycle of laundry. There is always so much. I definitely do a load at least once a day, and yeah, it never ends. While I was doing that, the boys were getting themselves dressed for school. I leave their clothes out for them the night before so that they can independently get themselves ready in the morning. Eli, however, is not wearing his uniform today because this day he actually had a wow day at school and he needed to dress up as a caveman essentially. I only got the memo for this the night before, so I had to scramble and makeshift DIY costume out of the throw blanket from our bed, and then I just painted his face with a little bit of bronzer to make him look muddy and popped a bit of texturizing powder in his hair to make him look a bit scruffy, and he was happy with that, and he said that everyone at school liked his costume, so I'm glad we managed to pull that together in such a short amount of time. Now I am just making Avery's bed, which luckily it doesn't really take a whole lot. I can never get it to look as pretty as it used to, considering she has the sleep system in her bed now, which I haven't actually mentioned yet on this video. She does have a sleep system, which is what those bulky things on her mattress are. They basically just keep her body nice and straight while she sleeps, and she tolerates them really well. So yeah, just making her bed. I like to make mine and Avery's bed every morning. I leave the boys, they do know how to make their own beds, but most of the time they forget before school. So yeah, that is their job, even though they don't really do it. By this point, Avery's feed has finished, so I'm just detaching her from the pump and giving her her final flush, and then I will take her extension set off her button. She does sleep with it on because she has meds at 10:30 in the night, so instead of disturbing her by trying to put it on and take it off, we just leave it on her through the night and then take it off once she's had her feed in the morning. I do like to take her out of her pee pod at this point because when she's had her feed, most of the time she does a poo, and I find if I leave her in the pee pod, that poo just goes all up her back. So to save myself a lot of work, I just take her out of the pee pod. This day she had already pooed, but managed to get to her just in time before it leaked everywhere. So I changed her bum before I went and carried on with being productive. There are just a few more things I like to get done before the school run, one of them being to take the feed from Avery's pump and pop that back in the fridge and throw away the giving set, and put her tube in some hot water to clean it. We just put it in a Tupperware container with some boiling water and some dish soap, and then leave it to soak in that to give it a clean between uses. And also I usually like to offload the dish drainer as well. In this house we don't have a dishwasher, and both Josh and I miss it so much. It saved us so much time, but dishes by hand now, so I like to empty the dish drainer just because I feel like that makes the kitchen look extra messy, even though there is a pile of dishes to be done, but that is an afternoon job. So for now I'm just clearing off the drainer to at least make that look a bit tidier. Then I get the boys' packed lunches ready. This day in particular I did not have Eli's lunchbox because he left it at school the day before, so I have just packed a few things in his bag and we'll pop his sandwich in there as well so that he can put that in his lunchbox when he gets to school. I'm still loving this little lunchbox system from Temu, by the way. But anyway, I make their lunch usually the day before, so it's ready to go in the morning. And then it is time to head out the door. Luckily, I only need to drop the boys off over the road because there is a gate to the school there, so that makes the school runs really simple. So I just carry Avery since it's not for very long and it's just easier than trying to strap her into the pushchair. Once we're back, I set Avery in the living room and head upstairs to pick out her clothes so I can get her dressed, which I feel like is quite a process every day, and that's no one's fault but my own. I'm really particular about what she wears. I like to make sure the bow always matches her outfit, but I think that's just one of the perks of having a little girl. This day I definitely went for a pink vibe, I think, but I just take that stuff downstairs and get Avery changed, and then comes the task of sorting out her hair, which gets more and more difficult as she gets older. It has to be done. Avery gets a very, very knotty hair, and if I leave it for more than a day, she ends up getting massive mats in her hair, and it gets in her face as well, so I just like to keep it up throughout the day for her, but just doing her hair and then popping in a nice pretty bow. And I swear this girl gets more and more beautiful every single day. Once Avery is dressed and ready for the day, we do some interactive play. Therapy, I think, is a very subjective term in this house. I tend to leave her more equipment-based therapy for the afternoon and take it easier on her in the morning, and just do some play-based therapies like interactive play, a bit of tummy time. But as you will see, I do tend to space these things out. Avery tends to get annoyed or tired just from doing 10 to 20 minutes of even gentle playing. So I do have to do things in small bursts. So for now, we're just doing a little bit of interactive play. I tied these little rainbow tassels to her Love Every play gym with a muslin cloth just to keep it at the right level for her so that she can see it and she can reach it if she wants to, and she has been doing it, so it's been working really, really well, and she seems to really enjoy them. But I just use a few different toys that I know she responds well to, and just give her a chance to sort of reach and feel and experience each one. She does do really, really well with her reaching. We've still got a long way to go, but she does well, and I try to only use a few different things at a time just so that I don't overwhelm her. Mirrors are always a great thing. We have this mirror which also has a nice contrast picture on the back, which she really enjoys. I think she just likes the look of her own reflection, but why shouldn't she? This may not seem like therapy as such, which is why I said it is subjective in this household, but to us this is very much therapy. For Avery, this is going to be helping her vision and her hand-eye coordination and her motor skills. It's all baby steps, but I just take it day by day and discover the things that she likes. I try and incorporate Macaton where I can, particularly the sign more, because one of her targets is to try and respond to the sign or the word more so that we know she wants more of something. Avery also makes a gesture where she moves her head towards an object and it looks as though she is trying to eat it, so I kind of run with that and bring whatever it is I have to her face, and generally she sticks her tongue out and tries to feel it with her face and her tongue and her mouth, which I think is just a different way for her to explore different things. Avery has dystonia, which affects her arms quite a bit, so it does stop her from using her arms the way I'm sure she would like to. So if she finds a different way to experience something, like with her face or with her tongue, then we just let her go with that. After about 15 to 20 minutes, Avery started showing some signs that she was perhaps getting bored or frustrated of what we were doing, so it's time to give her a break. Like I said, I try not to do these things in more than sort of 15 to 20 minute bursts unless it comes to her stander, but that isn't something we tend to do in the mornings. So I'm going to give her a break to watch Mr. Bean, but I thought in the meantime, to get a little bit of extra hidden therapy in, I popped her leg in one of these gaiters. These are not going to be her custom gaiters. These are just ones the physio bought. They are much softer. The ones that she will be getting are going to be harder and won't actually be suitable for the daytime because of her dystonia. So I'm just popping her legs in these. She doesn't need it so much on her right leg yet, but her left leg she can't straighten all the way. So this will help give it a little bit of a stretch while she's watching TV. and then I can crack on and get a few bits done while she's laying there and technically still getting a little bit of therapy as well. This day I thought it was time to start pulling out some of my autumn decor since the weather is starting to get a little bit colder now. I couldn't pull all of it out just because my sideboard hasn't arrived yet and I want to use that space too, but I thought it was time to start injecting some autumn into the house, so I'm just cleaning off the surfaces that I want to use before I put out my decor. This to me is kind of my little bit of joy for the day outside of motherhood, which I think is so incredibly important. I try my hardest to do at least one thing each day that brings me joy outside of motherhood, just so that I don't get lost in the cycle of just doing things for my children. Even though those do bring me joy, I like to kind of remind myself what I like for me as well. Like I said, I think that is just really important, so I try to make it a priority just to spend at least a few minutes each day to do something for myself. So I've lit some autumn candles, popped out some pumpkins, and also put out my nice pumpkin mug, which I then realised actually had a chip in it, which must have happened while it was being stored, which is incredibly annoying, but oh well. After Avery has had a bit of a break, it is time to put her back to work again. This time I am focusing on some stretches, so I try to stretch out her legs, particularly her left leg, and then also stretch her arms out as well. She does laugh when I do her stretches. Normally I can tell the difference between when she's happy and upset, although I think this might be kind of somewhere in between. She laughs, so I don't think it's hurting her to the point where it really upsets her, but I do think it is quite a stretch for her. But it is really important that we do these stretches to try and keep her muscles as loose as possible, considering she is fighting against the tone. So I do some stretches with her, and then we focus on a little bit of tummy time to help strengthen her chest and her arms and her head and neck. She then has a little bit of a break again, and I start preparing her next feed. She is fed again at 11:30, so her feeds are around 4 hourly, give or take, and with this feed she just has baclofen and gabapentin. So I'll sort her feed out, and around this time of day is also when I will make myself some breakfast, because I will usually sit and eat my breakfast while I'm giving Avery her second feed of the day. I just find that this works best for us, and I feel as though I'm using my time when I'm sat down to nourish myself. So I don't sit down a lot throughout the day, I'm not gonna lie, so when I do, when I'm forced to actually sit with Avery and keep her nice and still, I make sure to eat so that I don't run out of steam. I've been opting for jam on toast recently, and then I'll usually have that with a nice cup of tea, which if I'm lucky I'll get to drink hot. So then I'll sit down with Avery to feed her. I will usually pop something on YouTube, because it is very rare that I actually get to choose what I want to watch on the TV, since usually it's Avery's choice most of the day. So I take advantage of this time. So I'll feed Avery and eat my breakfast, and once her feed is done, that usually takes us to the end of the morning. So I hope you have enjoyed our morning routine. Obviously, this is just an example of what a morning can look like for us. Sometimes it may look different. Sometimes Avery doesn't tolerate any therapies. Sometimes we're out of the house, just depending on what we've got on that day. But I hope you have enjoyed spending the morning with us. Please hit subscribe if you would like to follow us along on our journey, and I will see you guys in a few days with another video. Bye guys.